past Thursday, a young man came into my office, and he's a student at Eastern Bible Institute, or college, now becoming university, down in Lakeland, Florida. And he spent at least an hour with me in the office this week. And like most evangelical churches, he attends a church that has communion only once in a while. They used to have it every month, now they have it every quarter. And probably eventually, like the Church of God, they have it once a year if they remember. But anyways, it's really, really a sad indictment. Understand something, the importance of the Lord's table. I say, well, you're going to talk about that again today. It's every opportunity I have. You know what Peter said this, as long as I'm in this tabernacle, as long as I'm in this body right here, I'm going to keep reminding you about this, and this, and this all the time. It's because we have nothing else to preach about. Well, we got tons to preach about. But we must accentuate and major on the major.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
The problem is that too many preachers are majoring on the minors and minoring on the majors. And that's why we have an anemic condition of the church today. And so it's fair with him. He didn't plan to stay that long, but he was excited about being there. And I began to share with him about the significance and a vital role that the Lord's table plays in the church.
Right. Amen.
And I told him we have it every week, and I said we've been having it now every week for the last 3.5 years. And he was a little shocked by that. And so I told him a little bit more about it, and the more that I shared with him about it, he really sensed the anointing of the Holy Spirit on him. He said, oh, I'm getting goosebumps all over me, just you talking. He said, tell me some more, tell me some more, tell me some more. I was quite excited to share with him the good word about Christ meeting us sensually at the Lord's table. What a tremendous, awesome thought that there is a place on earth physically that we can experience the Lord. And I know that when we hug each other, it's like hugging the Lord and being hugged back reciprocally, so on and so forth. But when it comes to the Lord's table, there are blessings and miracles and benefits from Calvary that are exclusive to the Lord's table, so that if you don't partake of it correctly or partake of it at all, you're missing out. You're depriving yourself of some tremendous benefits from the Lord's table. Some have argued the fact, well, what if it becomes routine? It depends on how it's presented, number one. Number two, do you preach every Sunday? Yeah. Is it routine? No. Well, shut up. Do you sing praises every Sunday? Yeah. Is it routine? No. Why should it be routine? Do you take offerings and tithes every Sunday? Yeah. Is it routine? No. Well, shut up. What's the argument? Why is all of a sudden just the Lord's table would become a routine? Why should it just, why that's being singled out? So we don't do it in case it becomes a routine. Well, why don't you stop preaching in case it becomes a routine? Why don't you stop taking, receiving tithes and offerings in case that becomes a routine? Stop singing. I'll tell you what, close the church. Because going to church every Sunday may be becoming a routine. Amen. You put your shoes on every morning, it could be a routine or it might be by necessity. There are some habits that are good habits. There are some routines that are good routine. Here at Calvary Community Church, nothing we do here is routinely done. It is done habitually. It is done in a spiritual experience with God from the very beginning of the service all the way to the very end. There's not one, listen, there's not one portion of the service that should become mere routine for anybody. Every portion, from the time we open the scriptures, from the very beginning in prayer and reading the scripture and also the reciting our Shema, all the way to the very, very end. Nothing should be done routinely. Everything is intended to be an experience with God. Amen. Nothing is to be done routinely. I don't shake hands routinely. I don't hug people's neck routinely. How many know that you can shake somebody's hand and you can tell when it's a routine? Otherwise, what's the sense of getting up in the morning? If you go to work every day simply by routine because you have bills to pay, I wouldn't hire you.
Right.
That's right.
You better come. If you're going to work for me, you better like what you're doing,
Amen.
That's that right.
or you're going to stay home.
Right.
I don't need somebody to come work for me just because he has the bills to pay. And he works routinely. I need somebody who likes me and who is interested in my well-being and who has my best interest at heart. Otherwise, what's the sense? And by the way, don't let your marriage get routine.
Amen.
Amen.
How many know the wife can tell when the husband's routinely rude
Oh, yeah.
and routinely negligent
Advice would work.
and routinely taking her for granted? And how many know vice versa is true there too?
Amen.
Amen.
So we're not going to get married just in case it becomes routine? Are you getting the drift? Everything we do here at Calvary Community Church means something.
Amen.
But when you come here physically in your body, you need to be here mentally.
Amen.
You need to be here spiritually. You need to be here in your spirit, your emotions, your soul. And everything that you do is going to be relative to how open you are to the Holy Spirit.
That's right.
I mean, understand it's what you put into a service is what you're going to get out of it. I've always found it so interesting that everybody gets the same opportunity, whether you sit in the front pew or the back pew. You get the same singing, the same preaching, the same ministering of prayer, the same offering of the Lord's table. One person can go out and say, man, was I ever blessed today? And the next one further, wow, what a lousy service. Now, wait a minute. How can we have such two extremes from one service? From two people? Somebody didn't show up, even if they did show up, right? One showed up with all parts participating, body, mind, soul, and spirit. The other one showed up because they either had a routine or they were forced to by under a stiff threat. So let's open our heart. God has a word for us today.
Amen.
I'm going to bring you into an area that I have not brought you before. It's about the Lord's table. Guess what? Never brought you there before. Well, yeah, I have, but not this way. Turn with me to Psalm 78, please. Psalm 78, beginning at verse 56. Psalm 78, beginning at verse 56. This is Asaph. Asaph was David's choir director and music director and praise and worship leader in the temple. And he wrote huge numbers of the Psalms. He was a musician and a singer. And in Psalm 78, it is a tremendous thing that he has done here. It is a reiterating and a retelling of the whole story of what God did for the children of Israel, beginning with them being in Egypt, Moses taking them out, all the way into the promised land. And it's got a huge number of verses. As a matter of fact, it's got 72 verses in this particular psalm, and don't you be reading them while I'm preaching. If you're that interested, when you get home, read the rest of Paul Harvey's story. All right, but otherwise, you're here now, and you're going to listen to what I have to say, because what I have to say is vital to your life. And I'm beginning at verse 56 because that's the important part that we want to emphasize today. And he talks about the children of Israel as God takes them out of Egypt, brings them through the wilderness, 40 years in the wilderness. Now watch, there was not a sick one among, not weak, their clothes didn't wear out, and God fed them miraculously with manna from heaven, from the quail every day, to where they were so sick of all the good filet mignons, you know, that they were sick of all the good stuff. They complained, they murmured, criticized, because everything became routine. You see, how many know that if you can have good stuff happening to you all the time, if you're lacking humility and gratitude, it'll become routine, and you'll start criticizing and complaining the good life you have.
Uh-huh.
Oh, give me that Presbyterian look. How many know if you're not careful to remain grateful for what you have, you'll be getting routine. You know, it becomes a routine for you. And therefore you become accustomed, you become what they say is familiar, breeds contempt. You breed a contemptibility toward the good things that you have. Who in the world would complain being served on a silver platter every morning? My wife doesn't serve me in bed.
Come on now, Diane.
Come on.
But then nor would I expect you to. I've never served her in bed. But these were being served on a silver platter in the morning. Fresh manna from heaven. The word manna means, what's this? They've never had it before. They've never had manna. It was God serving up a perfect breakfast food every morning. We were talking in Sunday school class this morning. For what God has done for us in providing us with salvation, how can we ever adequately thank Him for what He's done for us? How in the world can we adequately demonstrate our thanks? That's why we need to be grateful, because we were undeserving of everything that we've received from God. We were undeserving and unworthy. Nobody likes an ingrat. If you don't know what an ingrat is, you probably won. An ingrat is a person that's ungrateful for what they have.
Uh-huh.
That's an ingrat. Don't you learn a new word here today? Ingrat. Oh, sounds great. Don't be that way. Don't. Because it's very important. Now watch what happens here. Yet they tested and provoked the Most High, and did not keep His testimony or His commands, but turned back and acted unfaithfully like their fathers. They were turned aside like a deceitful bow. For they provoked Him to anger with their high places, and moved Him to jealousy with their carved images. And when God heard this, He was furious, and greatly abhorred Israel. Oh my. Here is verse 60. The Bible says it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of an angry God. Listen, if I were you, a word of wisdom, don't get on God's bad side. All right, just don't do that. It's not a good idea. Verse 60. So that he forsook the tabernacle of Shiloh, the tent he had placed among men, and delivered his strength. Watch that. Verse 61. Delivered his strength into captivity, and his glory into the enemy's hands. He also gave his people over to the sword, and was furious with his inheritance. That's the people. The fire consumed their young men, and their maidens were not given in marriage, and their priests fell by the sword, and their widows made no lamentation. You know, when God gets to a place that He even gets out of Dodge, you're in trouble.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm going to give you some terminology here. Look at verse 60 again. God got so angry, so upset, abhorred Israel. That means to say, you know what? If I had to do this over again, I might not choose you. You have turned me off royally. So in verse 60, so that he forsook the tabernacle of Shiloh. The tent he had placed among men. Watch now. God forsook his own house.
Yes.
Where God would meet with them in a tabernacle in the wilderness, God said, I'm out of here. Every time I turn around, you're creating your own molded images. You're complaining, you're whining, you're criticizing. You're coming against me, you're raising your fist and pointing your fingers at me. Every time I turn around, you're criticizing me. Every time I turn around, you're showing ingratitude here. Every time I turn around, you're worshiping idols that you have made. They provoke God to jealousy. Have you ever seen the anger of a jealous wife? Or husband? Jealousy is a very, very strong emotion. Jealousy is a very, very strong emotion. You get to a point when your other half or your significant other in your life, you get to a point if they are showing interest elsewhere, you say, adios amigos, adios, see you next time around, I'm done with you. If you don't want me, I'm done. You don't have to tell me twice. I'm done. Who wants to stay in a relationship or with any kind of relationship that one shows disdain and creates jealousy by frequenting another? Jesus said you can't serve two masters. You'll serve one and not the other. You'll love one and not the other. God forsook the tabernacle. If you look in the church today, Ichabod is written on the house. Revelation chapter 3 verse 20, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man in the church, this is Jesus knocking on the church door, if you will hear my voice and open the door, I will come in. Otherwise, Jesus left the church that he's called by his own name. He left the tabernacle, the tent. God left everything. And watch what it says in the next, all right, the next verse 61. And delivered his strength into captivity. Watch now. He delivered his strength into captivity. Listen closely to me. Watch now what happens now. He delivered the Ark of the Covenant into the hands of the Philistines. If you don't want me, I'm taking out what empowers you from you. And what's the next sentence? And his glory into the enemy's hands. Oh, that's tough. I had fully intended on using that. I may yet. I'll let you know. Stay tuned. Watch what's happened here. My goodness. God is in that holy of holy place in the tabernacle in the wilderness. There is a Shekinah glory. There is a radiancy of the glory in the presence of God right there in the tabernacle, right there in the Holy of Holies. And in the holy place, the presence of God sometimes, Vivian, was so thick that they couldn't see their hands in front of them. It's like being in a fog so thick you can't see yourself. You can't see your own hand, and they couldn't perform the word. That's how intense the presence of God was in the holy place, time and time and time again. And then the Bible says, from the tabernacle you can see a pillar of fire over top of the tent, the dwelling place of God. And as long as the strength was there, that's the Ark of the Covenant, they were winning battles all the time when the Philistines would come against them. Because the strength God provided for his people was their protection from all onslaughts from the enemy. The strength of God was fighting the battles that they couldn't win if they tried to. And even with all of that, you'll find the whole story in 1 Samuel chapter 4, by the way. Not now. You'll find it in 1 Samuel 4. And I'll give you a little bit of a backdrop. And then, he said, if you want to be like them, and you want to hang out like these pagans, you want to hang out with them, and you want to become like a pagan, then adios, go for it, honey. If you don't want me, you don't like me, you don't need me, bye. Remember the little rascal? All right, go. Go. And by the way, what strengthened you and protected you, I'm going to give to your enemies.
Wow.
Watch now. And my glory I will give to them too. What made you a special people, my glory? What made you a special people compared to all other peoples and nations of the world? My glory in your presence is going to be given over, and it is given over to the enemy, the Philistines. Oh, my. And the battle raged. Eli was the prophet at the time. He was the high priest and prophet, Eli. He had two sons, Mary. Phanes was one of them. And he was married, his wife was expecting a child about to be delivered. And the enemies had gone in and they said, look, we've got them licked right now. All we got to do is go in and let's remove what has enabled them from their midst and bring it to our camp. What happened with Samson? He declared the secret of his strength.
Amen.
And Delilah went.
Clip,
She
clip,
became, where's Leah? She became a hairdresser. Not you, I mean, Delilah. She came out with some huge scissors while he was asleep. If you declare your secret to the enemy and turn it over to the enemy, what empowers you, they will take it from you.
Amen.
To weaken you and conquer you.
Don't share your secret.
And so, Eli he's a fat old boy, a lot bigger than me, huh? Oh, boy, he's a big boy. He was probably the size of Leo here, but maybe twice as round. He was one of those really big priests, you know, you see them in movies. And he was sitting on a tree stump. Watch now, sitting on a tree stump while the battle was raging. He didn't know what the results was, didn't know what was going on. He was just weeping, he just crying. Oh, Israel's falling apart. Where's the glory of God? Where's our strength? We can't win any battles anymore. And then finally, his two sons were taken out. His daughter-in-law comes running up, along with a messenger from the battlefield, which was northwest of Jerusalem, only about 40, 50 miles, maybe 20, 25 miles at the most from Jerusalem. Comes running up to Eli And they reported to Eli, your 2 sons have been killed in the battle. And then his daughter-in-law, she says, not only has my husband been killed, but they have taken the Ark of the Covenant out from Shiloh, is the tabernacle that they had built there, which would be prior to the temple in Jerusalem. And upon hearing that the Ark of the Covenant was taken out of the camp, old Eli fell over off the stone and broke his neck, snapped it in two, and died instantly. He said, with the Ark of the Covenant gone, our strength and our glory is gone. We're done. Nothing left here. Nothing left here. Killed over and died. Meanwhile, she goes into labor. It was prophesied that she would bring forth a son. Eli himself said, you're going to bring forth a son. And as she was getting forth birth to this child, she said, I'm not going to make it. The child will make it, but I'm going to die in giving birth. But here's the name I want you to give my son. What is it? Ichabod.
Ichabod.
For the glory of God is forsaken. Glory of God is forsaken. It was disastrous. 370 years approximately from the time they had crossed over the Jordan and set up camp around the area of Ephraim and Benjamin, the tribes, not far from Judah's tribe area, down Jerusalem area, not far from there, just west-northwest from there, the tribe of Ephraim and the tribe of Benjamin. That's where Shiloh was. It was there for about 370, 375 years it was there. All of a sudden, it's gone. And Israel could do nothing. Israel could do nothing. It couldn't kill a fly. And fell into the hands of the Philistines. Now, what did the Philistines do? By the way, I'll get to the Lord's table. Don't you think I forgot, all right? If you, there's strategy with all this. I want you to listen closely. So what did the pagans do, these Philistines do? They brought the Ark of the Covenant into the temple of Dagon, their god. And the temple of Dagon was a huge place. And they had this huge statue of Dagon, which was their god. And they brought the Ark of the Covenant right next to it. I said, we've got Israel now. Wow, we've got Israel now. Trying to intercept the power and the glory of God out from Israel, to bring it to them, to make use of it for their benefit. What did Peter say to Simon the sorcerer? You're going to be dead right now thinking that you could buy this power from God with money. You and your money will burn in hell. And so they put this tabernacle, this basically the Ark of the Covenant, right next to this huge statue of Dagon in the Dagon temple. It almost sounds like Dagon temple. Dagon. Now, they left it there overnight. They came back to check it the next day. Guess what? The ark was still standing, and old Dagon was gone. Fell flat on his face. So they got some bunch of guys together, they lifted it up and set it back on its feet. Next night, they go to bed, they come back the next morning, they come back, and it's on his face again. Set it up. Same thing happened third day. Third time, falls on his head. This time they come back, said, don't bother picking it up. The head rolled off of it. Jesus said, you're going to step on serpents. Serpent's head. Watch something here, it's very neat. Like Jonah in a whale, the whale couldn't handle the power that was accompanying Jonah and his message. Even a whale, Pepto-Bismol, could not help the whale. He had an acute upper intestinal tract infection.
Had heartburn.
All right. He had heartburn, Rolaids, Tums, Pepto-Bismol could not cure him.
Gaviscon.
Until finally, he just decided, I can't take, I don't know what I ate. My God, 3 days ago, this thing been sitting on I've had gas. 3 days of gas. So he goes up to the shoreline, which is near Tel Aviv today, by the way. And he spits out this, what he ate 3 days ago. The message of God will not work in an unclean territory, an unclean area. The message is sacred. It's just like putting God in hell. If you put God in hell, it's going to have an indigestion there as well. It cannot keep. That's why the grave couldn't hold Jesus. Why seek ye the living among the dead? Jesus can't stay where death is. He rose from the dead because death had to spew him out. Just like the whale did, can't do this. So, the Ark of the Covenant, they said, okay, this Ark of the Covenant here cannot work in this temple. Destroy our God. Get some men, get rid of it, pull it out of here. They brought it somewhere else. They said, leave it alone. Come on, leave that alone. And it was years after that. Some priests of Israel, they tried to get it, so on and so forth. It wasn't until David, when David became king of Israel, that he had sent for the Ark of the Covenant to bring it back into the temple. Hallelujah. Remember, he was dancing in the street naked? His wife laughed at him. He was shouting glory because the power and the glory was coming back to where it belonged. Now, let's talk about the Lord's table. In Exodus chapter 25, you will find the story how God